Live from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida, the home of News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. This is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now.
It's exciting!
Oh, yeah. Todd Bowles is excited. Baker Mayfield is excited with a new paycheck. Bucs fans definitely excited. It's a new season for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a new season for us, the official podcast of your official Bucs station. This is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Welcome into the Stream Center, man. Oh, man, I have a new button on the board. Oh, I'm going to hit it a lot. I'm going to be hitting it a lot.
That's when you go into the press box and you see that they're carving a good tenderloin out there in the meal. That's what it
exactly. This is the button you need for that moment.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely.
There we go.
And we have gravy too. Hit that button. Hit the button.
Right there.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Beautiful.
Just, I need to give you guys access to the button so you can just hit it whenever you want.
Exactly.
We need it in the sports department, in the sports office.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
With Bucs Insiders, Kenny Morales, Dan Lucas, I'm JB Biunno from right to left on your screen. Great to have you with us on the season opener of Bucs Bonus on WFLA.com. WFLA is the official station, of course, of your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we are really excited for the 2024 NFL season. Now, it kicks off tonight on WFLA with, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Great game to kick off the season, but we are focused on this episode with the Buccaneers opening the season at Raymond James Stadium against the Washington Commanders, now led by their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. A lot to break down in this episode of Bucs Bonus. We'll be talking offense. We'll be talking defense. We're going to be talking about, of course, we got Buckified Bert ready to call on in. You guys know how it works, but let's actually begin, if we can, with our Bucs preview on WFLA.com. It is the Washington Commanders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, it's going to air this weekend, Sunday, 4:25 kickoff on Fox. And the key storylines, we're going to talk about how the Buccaneers looked in the preseason, their dominant defense against, of course, a rookie quarterback, and what you guys think is their biggest challenge against the Commanders. But let's go in order here, because we haven't really talked about the Bucs preseason all that much. And for good reason. It's the preseason, not a whole lot.
Really
there. Is there anything to talk about preseason-wise? Anything that caught your eye? You were there at camp. You guys are laser focused on incoming players, veterans coming back, rehabbing players coming back off of injury. What stood out? Give me one thing each about the preseason that stood out to you. Dan, why don't we start with you?
The thing that stood out to me, I'll tell you what stood out to me. Two things that didn't stand out for good reason. One, we didn't see a lot of the Liam Cohen offense. They always say you're vanilla in the preseason, and they were, trust me. But the Bucs executed it well. And we only saw Baker Mayfield and company for one drive in 3 games, and they looked very good, albeit against backup players for the Dolphins. But I think that bodes well for the season. That makes it, to me, more exciting. And the other thing that I don't think we saw much of was this new kickoff rule.
Oh, yeah.
I think that teams kind of played coy with it, didn't really do too much with it. Sean Tucker had a really nice kick return in the Jacksonville game that started a touchdown drive. And we were told, without going too into the weeds on the rule, that this has evolved into essentially a running play for the offense with blocking schemes. And if the defenders are not in their gaps or a tackle is missed, you're going to see touchdowns on kick returns, not just 50-yard returns. You're going to see touchdowns. And I think that the Bucs and all the NFL teams, I think, maybe have been working on some little pieces of this that they think might work, and will maybe unleash those on opening day. I will be stunned if on opening week, when all the games are played, we don't see one kick return for a touchdown. I think we'll see one.
It's weird to say this, but it is kind of an exciting time for special teams coordinators across the league, right? They're just kind of dreaming up different schemes, because it's a whole new world with kick returns.
It is. I think it's exciting, and it is going to impact games, because all these games wind up being one-score games anyways. So I think you're going to have. Going to impact time of possession. It's going to impact one score or two scores. I think it's going to be a pretty exciting element to the game.
Yeah, it's going to look weird at first, no doubt.
It does.
Especially when
it does still look weird.
It does look weird.
We've seen it several games now, and it still looks a little odd.
Exactly.
Just lining up there, and all of them like against one another. It doesn't look like football to me, but of course that's the new rule. We'll get used to it in time. Kenny, give me a preseason observation, something that you noticed that really stood out.
Yeah, I think Dan touched on it a little bit. Liam Cohen kind of keeping things pretty vanilla in that offense. But one thing that we did saw that was certainly a nice thing to see after what we've seen from the Bucs offense the last couple of years. The ground game got going. Obviously, we didn't see Rachaad White for a whole lot of the preseason, other than that preseason finale where he played that one drive and was able to score a touchdown, get a couple nice runs as well. But Sean Tucker had a really nice preseason. Bucky Irving obviously flashed as well. And I think the offensive line did too. I mean, Graham Barton, that Bengals game, there were a couple highlights there where he was blocking dudes 5, 10, 15 yards down the field. This Bucs O-line, in particular that interior, was actually creating some running lanes for these Bucs running backs. And I think that was a nice positive to see coming out of the preseason. Now, obviously, take it with a grain of salt, right? Still the preseason. Let's see what they look like against ones and, 4 quarters of football. But I thought that was hopefully a sign of good things to come for the Bucs ground game.
I do agree with you on that, Kenny. The ground game to me is intriguing because they were being so vanilla in the preseason. It required technique, and the fact that the offensive line could create the room for those guys to run the way they did really gave us a hint of what they could do when the games are set up to run. If Baker is hot going down the field, all of a sudden now you're going to be able to break off these chunk runs. And I mean, a 1-2-3 punch. I love it. Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker earned his place. I mean, Chase Edmonds couldn't get on the field with an injury, but Sean Tucker, compared to last year, he was coming back from the health scare. As Todd Bowles said, wasn't really in football shape. And it just took him all year to even contribute. Now he's gone through the cycle. I think this is a steal for the Bucs, dating back to last year, that when they need him in games, he's going to produce. And Bucky Irving, I personally cannot wait to see Bucky Irving get at it full speed. I think there's a role for him. Obviously, he's going to be involved in special teams.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a place for him as well to complement Rachaad White very well. It should be very excited for Bucs fans with this run game.
There we go. Perfect.
Come on.
There we go.
We're
Carving tenderloin in the press box.
We are in mid-season form
Yes.
here on Bucs Bonus,
Right.
getting ready, of course.
Yes.
And I like how you guys both talking about the offense in your preseason observations. What I'd like to do now is switch things over and talk defense here for a second, because as Casey Sloan, WFLA.com sports digital producer, notes here, it's a pretty dominant Buccaneers, or what we expect to be a pretty dominant Buccaneers defense, taking on Jaden Daniels in his first NFL regular season game. You know that Bowles and team are just salivating over the prospect of introducing a lot of crazy schemes that Jaden Daniels probably just didn't see too much over at LSU. In talking about the Bucs, I want to highlight something. We had Rondé Barber on stream a couple of weeks ago. We were talking with him, and I asked him to pick one player on the Bucs that isn't presently a star, that by season's end will be a star recognized around the league. And you know who he picked?
Who'd he pick?
He loves Kalijah Kancey. He sees something there with Kalijah Kancey.
Yep.
So that's a good kickoff, if you will, for the defensive conversation.
Yeah, you know why? Because that we talk about the Commanders 1-2 in the middle with Vita Vea next to Kancey.
Oh yeah,
it's a pick your poison type deal, especially in your pass protection. And what I saw in the 2 workouts against the Jacksonville Jaguars, when they did the joint workouts, day 1 they were in full pads. So the offensive line, defensive line, they went at it. Vita Vea threw guys away like you would throw away a cup at a picnic.
A rag doll.
Hey, let me grab that napkin. Except that was the starting left guard, Vita. And this is I can't say enough. It has been almost a well-kept secret during the entire camp and preseason how Vita Vea, he lost a little bit of weight coming in on purpose to play faster, and it wasn't talked about.
No, not at all, which is a surprise.
And even in the last preseason game against the Dolphins, the starters played one defensive series. There was a tackle for loss, one of the very first plays of the game for the Dolphins. And I forget who got the tackled the running back, and it was dramatic. But if you go back and watch the play, it happened because Vita blew
I remember
up
this
the
play.
center.
Oh, that poor Miami center.
He just basically the
that clip went viral.
The center's rear end made the play.
He got pushed back.
Yes,
5 or 10 yards.
Yes,
I mean several way behind the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
All his teammates are in front of him.
And that's what Vita did in the Jacksonville workout in pads. He was just pushing guys backwards. And so that if it starts with that, then like Rondé was saying, now Kalijah Kancey's free to do something. That's pretty scary.
Now, is it fair to say, let me ask you guys this while we're talking about that defensive front for the Bucs. Is it fair to say that Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey are the most formidable inside defensive lineman duo that the Bucs have had since 2020 when they won the Super Bowl with Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea? Because that was shutting down the run game considerably.
No one ran on that defense.
Nobody.
No one.
No.
Right. Yeah.
That defense also had pieces, had the outside pass rush to complement.
Yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yeah. When you put it all together, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but this inside rush against the Commanders is going to require Tryon Shoyinka, the outside guys, Diaby, to have discipline to keep Jaden Daniels from getting out of the pocket. Then it will work. If they get pushed out of the play, the Bucs could be in some trouble, even with those guys up front. But that's a great question because the Bucs have generally had good interior defensive linemen. Right now, what they're lacking is total depth. It's from the 1s to 2s to 3s. They kept veteran Will Golston, and I was so glad that they did because Will Golston is one of the smartest guys on the field. You can say whatever you want. Oh, maybe he's lost a step. Well, sure. Well, he's a heck of a smart player too. Mm-hmm. He'll know how to compensate anything against these younger guys on the field. So that's a good thing. However, Logan Hall carrying an injury, a foot injury right now. He's a concern for Sunday. So you might have chipped away a little bit at the depth of the defensive line. Yeah.
And it sounds like that injury might be they take a little longer than we think because they just signed a defensive lineman. Ben Still, I think his name was.
Yeah, not Ben Stiller.
No, not Ben Stiller. Ben Still.
Yeah, Night at the Museum. He was great at Night at the Museum.
Correct.
Now he's going to play for the Bucs.
Yeah. And I believe what I saw, maybe it was on Twitter, the rule is they have to be on the team for 3 weeks. Correct? So this might not be a quick fix thing. It might be a little bit with Logan Hall.
Think about this with the rule. So if you get a guy off of another team's practice squad, it's very common. You're allowed to do that, except by rule, he must stay on your active roster for 3 weeks. So the Bucs have made that commitment. You don't make that commitment lightly. That tells me what they're a little worried about their depth this week, and the fact that a defensive lineman, you can talk scheme all you want, but a defensive lineman can get on there and on day one without a practice, and they know how to go to ball, and they know how to stop a gap. I mean, he can come in and play. It's not like he's going to be lost out there, but that's a pretty big commitment. 3 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I want to bring back of all the Ben Stiller movies that Night at the Museum.
Well,
was
I mean, it's like White Goodman and Dodgeball.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean that's the one.
Meet the Parents.
Yeah, Meet the Parents.
Meet
Classic.
the Parents.
Zoolander.
Zoolander.
I mean, no, that one just kind of hit. I was like, man. But you know what?
He's a well traveled actor.
Mm-hmm.
He's many roles he's played. White Goodman, by the way, is my favorite.
What a great character.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That is a movie that
But
Man, might get a sequel one day, and
maybe,
people
I would love
are gonna
that.
lose their minds. If Happy
maybe-
Gilmore can get a sequel,
Dodgeball should get
can.
a sequel.
If Ben Still for the Bucs can take the bull by the horns, like, wait, good. That's a good.
There we
that's
go.
a good.
Bravo.
Well done.
Bravo.
That's
See
a good
that-
one.
We bring it
Exactly.
all the way around.
There you
here
go.
on Bucs
There you go.
Bonus. So really quick, just predictions. What type of Jaden Daniels do the Bucs see on Sunday? Do they see the Heisman winning, electrifying, LSU quarterback that took the college football landscape by storm, or do they see some nerves? Do they see a rookie quarterback, if you will?
Well, you're going to see a rookie quarterback if they can pressure him and the coverage does not allow him to make the easy, safe throws. That's where the Bucs are at an advantage. I mean, this is his first NFL game. I'd rather play him in week 1 than week 11.
Exactly.
No doubt.
So you're going to get the game will slow down for him as the weeks go by. What I found in these games against rookies in particular, or backup quarterbacks too, who have come in and just tortured this defense, is these guys are grinders, and the Bucs get off to a really good start, and you think they're doing okay. Then you look up in the late third quarter, and you're like, wait a minute, they're only a field goal behind. And this guy is starting to make some passes and gain some confidence. You can't allow.
Right.
Don't allow him to get confidence passing. It's
Yep.
going to be difficult enough to stop him running.
I was going to say.
That to me is the challenge.
If you can try to at least contain the run a little bit, he's going to get his rushing yards.
Yeah.
But I think we heard from the defensive coordinator today,
Casey
Rogers
yeah.
had a great line. He was like, describe his rushing ability. Jaden Daniels says, it's sickening. It's a guy, it's this guy, it looks like he's going to get 5. Well, it turns into 55.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to avoid. Avoid the big runs. Try to contain him to keep it to, so he's not carving you up.
And we know from the past that rookie quarterbacks get a little bit nervous in the pocket when they have an NFL rush literally bulldozing them in the face.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, Will Levis last year, I thought the Bucs had a really good game against him. So they have had good days against rookies. To me, it's inundating the quarterback with too much to try and think about. I mean, because this guy hasn't done it under duress yet.
Right.
At this level with this speed. I mean, we're talking about Vita Vea for crying out loud, and Yaya Diaby and these guys. Yeah. This isn't, he's not going up against Vanderbilt. So that's the way they can do it.
Yeah.
The linebacker core, the secondary, Antoine Winfield Jr., Levante David, they are going to be keeping close tabs on Jaden Daniels and his ability to run the football. Let's get to our third key storyline. We've got a lot to get to on this edition, our season opener, if you will, of Bucs Bonus, here with Bucs insiders Dan Lucas and Kenny Morales. I'm JB Biunno. Let's get to the third headline here. Of course, we are all extremely excited.
Exciting. I'm excited too
about the season.
Pumped for every time I hear that.
But challenges, right? No team is perfect.
No.
Guys, heading into the game against the Commanders and really heading into the beginning of this regular season, what are some question marks or some things you're just not particularly sold on when it comes to this Buccaneers team?
Well, I'm curious to see the first drive of the game offensively. So the first drive last year was an absolute nightmare.
Putting it lightly.
And it was, and since we only got one small sample size in the preseason, the first game against Miami, we thought, okay, probably going to get Baker for a series or two. So let's see what they do. And they even said, we want to score touchdowns. We want to get on the board and not have penalties put us behind schedule and that sort of thing. And boy, did they come out and execute beautifully on that opening drive. And it was funny when they, the big pass from Baker to McMillan to the right sideline, and then Rashad White punches it in. I thought, well, they're done. These guys are done for the night. I think I've seen what I want to see.
Your assumption was correct.
Right, exactly. So if they can do that in this game and then carry that on as much as they can through the season, that's going to be exciting. But it's just not easy. They put this. It just took them a while to get going last year, I thought, in games, and sometimes the field is already flipped after one possession. So I want to see how that first possession goes.
Kenny, biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think I'll go on the flip side here. Defensively, I'm curious to see how the pass rush looks. Obviously, last year being led by Yaya Diaby, 7.5 sacks, and that was, he played in he didn't play the first couple of games really. He didn't play a whole lot. He kind of earned his playing time as the season went along. Well, now let's see what he looks like a full, slate of regular season games. But who else do they have really behind him? Who else can step up and pressure the quarterback? Maybe not necessarily get sacks. I feel like sometimes, coaches talk about all the time, Todd Bowles included, sacks a little bit of an overvalued stat. It's more about actually just getting pressure on the quarterback, make them make a tough decision or potentially a bad decision. So looking at a guy like, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who's, I think this is the last year of a contract. Is this a contract year for him?
Going into it,
It's time for that potential to really.
Yeah, it's kind of now or never, buddy.
And he's going to be pressed by Chris Braswell.
Yeah, him as well.
I think sooner rather than later. I think Chris Braswell might be this year's Yaya.
I mean, he got we saw him get at least one sack there against the Dolphins. Right. And that was exciting. But there were other games too where he flashed some potential. And Bowles was really, really high on him during that Jags week of practice. I remember him talking about him because he was playing with the ones because of some injuries.
Braswell had, I'm going back to the padded practice from my memory. He did have a play, Trevor Lawrence, that would have been a sack.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think he's got a ton of potential.
It's weird to think of a Todd Bowles defense and getting after the quarterback being somewhat of a question mark, because that the schemes are there. It's just whether or not you have the ability to actually get after the quarterback, right?
Right. They do get after the quarterback. Like last year, I think they were still top 10 in the league. I think with 40 sacks or something like that.
I'm curious.
Right. Yeah. It's that I'm talking more specifically about maybe like outside linebacker, edge rusher, those guys. That's what I'm looking for in terms of generating sacks, because we know with Todd Bowles' defense, the different blitzes he has and everything like that, he's going to get a lot of different guys to try and contribute. I mean, Antoine Winfield Jr. had how many sacks last year? Right. As a safety.
His role was he really expanded his role last year. And the other thing for the challenge, JB, and this falls really on the defensive backs, is the communication between themselves, particularly if they're trying to close out games. Another thing that happened last year, Bucs fans can relive the nightmares. Houston, Atlanta at home, Indianapolis. You're just not finishing a game when the work should be already done. Jordan Whitehead coming back to the team is supposed to be the fixer, I guess you could call that. He was when he was here, he was elite at it, and apparently, the way he said it, he was really coached well in New York. He's coming back a better player than before he went to the Jets. So I think the Bucs are banking on that as well, because you got Zion McCollum starting at corner, really the first time for him. There's no Carlton Davis, so Zion is going to be tested. Teams might start going after him immediately, so he's going to have to step up.
Him and Jamel Dean too.
Yep.
Now you're asking Jamel Dean to be your top corner. Which, I mean, he's been a solid starter for pretty much since the start of his career.
He got here, yeah.
But now, Carlton Davis was that number one wide receiver corner for the Bucs for a couple seasons. Now it's Jamel Dean's turn. I'm curious to see how he handles that role.
In the 2023 NFL season, the Buccaneers were tied for 7th in the league with 48 total sacks.
48. See,
everybody get after the quarterback. Last year, it'll be interesting to see what the defense does this year, and it starts this Sunday at Raymond James Stadium against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. You can read more right now on WFLA.com. Casey Sloan's preview of the game against the Commanders right here in Tampa, Florida. We are one more time.
It's exciting!
Oh, we're excited. We're excited. But first, before we're going to transition in just a moment to actually talk about the season itself and how the Buccaneers are looking as far as a 17-game NFL regular season. But before we get to our season preview, on the line, you know him well.
JB in the gang. This is Bucs Burton. I'm so happy to be back to the 2024 season of Bucs Bonus. And I tell you, this year is going to look really good for the Buccaneers. And let me tell you why. It's a guy named Liam Cohen. I mean, this guy is an offensive coordinator that we have. He played with Baker Mayfield for 5 games, and they won them all. And guess what? He's now Baker Mayfield coach now, offensive coordinator. And this is his first time being an offensive coordinator. But now, check this out. The Buccaneers won last year with Baker Mayfield only giving him $4 million. Now we're giving him 25 times that. Baker making over $100 million, and he's going to be doing much better because you're getting more money. You don't have more money to do, people. It makes you better. Now, we're taking on the Washington Commanders this week, and because we're taking on the Washington Commanders and they bring in a rookie, yeah, he's going to be good in the future, but the future ain't going to be Sunday when he play the Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers are fired up and we're ready. We're going to take it all away. We won back to back to back, and we want one more back in 2024, and on top of the Super Bowl ring at Raymond James. Let's get it on, baby. All right.
Buckified Bert.
Love
You're
it.
going to see him, of course, at Raymond James Stadium. You'll probably catch him on the Jumbotron again.
You won't miss him.
No. he's
I don't know how he does
How
it when
can
it's
you?
185 degrees.
and he's got
Full get up,
let me tell you something.
full.
If you see Buckified Bert at the game, you will pay, I mean, you will notice it's very obvious what he wears is not light.
No.
No.
It is
No. Always have your phone with you too if you stumble into him. He's probably taking more selfies than
he's basically
most mascots.
a local celebrity when it comes to Bucks fandom. But man, you're right. How he does it in basically what equates to like 3 luxury bathrobes like thrown on top of him. I mean, in that sweltering heat, the man loves himself
Kudos
some
to him.
Buccaneers football. We talked about Liam Cohen. We talked about the offense a good amount. We talked about, and we know by now, of course, him and Baker Mayfield have history. But I want to talk about what Buckified Bert brought up there with Baker getting paid. Because there's mixed results in the NFL when it comes to players getting paid. The players, of course, really work hard for that big paycheck. And then once they do get paid, some excel, others it doesn't really work out all that great because they hit their peak in their contract year. Which forecast, if you will, for me, Baker's upcoming season and really his upcoming seasons, if he, of course, is the Buccaneers' long-term future at quarterback. He has the paycheck that he's been waiting for since he entered the league as a Heisman Trophy winner. He's found his home with the Buccaneers. Is his arrow trending upwards? Is it flat or downwards? Dan, why don't we start with you?
I think it's absolutely up. And I hate to say the word matured, but because you're inferring that he was just some punk. But I think he's just a more mature man. And that's just, aren't we all, as we go through our 20s?
Yep.
And he just knows more than he did 6 years ago. He takes risks when they're supposed to take risks. He knows when you're supposed to eat it, instead of trying to do this bravado thing that he's been known for, and it has worked for him. I'm curious to see if he does, tuck it away and go down when he has to, or throw it away when he has to, rather than try and force things to happen. Because in the past it would snowball, against him. But I just think his mindset is completely different than it was. I've had Browns fans, when he first came here, patting me on the back going, "Good luck, buddy. Good luck."
Right.
Yeah, good luck. And I'm thinking, why? He's betting on himself. It's either this or maybe not even in football anymore.
But that's the point, though, right?
And
He did bet on himself.
right.
He did cash in, and now
Well,
we're in new territory, right?
Exactly.
He's in a position now where he's seeing what's around him and what there's potential to do. He knows he's not going to the Super Bowl by himself, and he feels like he's in a situation that can get him there. And I think I'll say, for lack of a better phrase, I just think he doesn't want to screw that up.
Fair to say. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Not to mention in the NFL, of course, that not all money is guaranteed, right?
Right.
So you get now, I think if I'm looking here, so Baker signing a 3-year, $100 million contract with the Bucs, $50 million in guaranteed, $40 million of which came at signing. So more, so how that impacts his future.
And the situation with the offense, it's where we were told it's really not too much different from what Dave Canales installed last year. And if you remember what Dave Canales said last year, that Baker was a point guard, and it was really about getting the ball to the playmakers. And I think that Liam Cohen is really an extension of that. And we'll see the tweaks starting this week when they really open it up. But I don't think they're asking Baker Mayfield to be the guy who runs around. He will extend plays and that sort of thing, but I don't think he's necessarily being asked to scramble and get an 11-yard gain if it seems ridiculous to try and do that. I don't think they're going to ask him to do that.
What do you think, Kenny?
No, I agree. Look, I think it's funny that he mentioned not wanting to use the word, more mature. That's exactly what Jason Light said as well during his presser a couple weeks ago when asked about Baker Mayfield and his growth. It's funny. He mentioned since Baker is now a new dad, he said he had a different gleam in his eye. You always hear about pregnant women and they have a glow to them. Well, maybe now new dads have a gleam in their eye. Maybe he's not more mature, but certainly the fact that, and he talked about it a little bit, that he is a new dad. He does view, the world a little differently. He views life a little differently. And I think that has led to maybe a little more mature outlook on not just life in general, but football. And, he talked about, being comfortable here, having Liam Cohen, having that, contract now, the trust of the Buccaneers, and the comfort level inside that locker room. We heard Baker talk about it yesterday. He said this is the most tight-knit team he's ever been a part of.
That was telling, I thought.
Including going back to his college days. That says a lot because
he was really tight with his Oklahoma
exactly.
teammates.
And there are new pieces on this team. Of course, you've got the Levante Davids and the Mike Evans back and all those guys, but there are several new rookies. There are undrafted guys. So for him to go out and say that, I think that says a lot about how close this group really is.
So as we look here at the schedule, of course, for the 2024 Bucs season, of course, you see there that we open with the Commanders on September 8th, and then we go away to Detroit. That's
asking a lot.
That's
tough
a
one.
tough,
Week 2
tough game. Broncos at home, probably winnable. Eagles at home. That's always it's always a fun game.
I think that game
that
game kicks off a stretch that's just murderer's row.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last edition.
Yeah,
Dan, you were talking about
all
this
the way
is
to the bye week. All the way to the bye week.
Yep. Eagles, Falcons, Saints, Ravens. Falcons at home. Chiefs into the Niners. I mean,
it's like
rough stretch.
Chiefs on a Monday night, right? And then 6 days later, the 49ers, the two Super Bowl teams.
Based on winning percentages, this is the 5th most tough schedule in the NFL this season. After the bye, away in the Big Apple against the Giants, away at Carolina, the Raiders at home, go to Hollywood for the Chargers, Dallas for the Cowboys, and then you're finishing out with some NFC South opponents at home with the Panthers and the Saints. You're just at that point, you're trying to get into those final 2 home games with at least a chance at winning the division or making the playoffs.
I hate using the phrase "it lightens up." The schedule lightens up because every game is hard
compared to that stretch.
But if you're in a position coming out of the bye week, I don't know what the record could be, but now you come back to the week before Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving weekend rather. How many games do we need to win to guarantee a playoff spot? How many games do we need to win to clinch the NFC South if they're in it? That's a stretch you would want right there all the way to the end of the regular season. So it shapes up how if they're in a desperate situation come November, December, it shapes up to matchups at least that should be competitive and winnable.
As we look here, we're moving from the schedule to the standings because you were talking about the NFC South, and this is what it looked like last season. The Buccaneers winning with a 9-8 record over the Saints. The big X factor this year, of course, are the Falcons and the introduction of Kirk Cousins into the division. Shaking things up. So the NFC South, probably not going to be the best division in football, but certainly
not by a long shot.
It is expected to be an improved division this season by most pundits.
I think you absolutely need to split your games with the Falcons minimum because they are the trendy pick to win the division by the odds makers, all the experts, the national talking heads, and that the Falcons are and you know what? In my opinion, you can. And I know Bucs fans are a little sensitive to. We didn't go away. No, you didn't. But you know what? I think with the spotlight on the Falcons, that's great.
Yeah,
I think the pressure's off.
Jason Light would love that. Yeah, remember he was asked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Because
said, "Great, pick him."
Well, because the schedule, that's tough. There's a chance they're going to be 5-5.
Yeah,
It's at some point. It doesn't. and if they're 5-5, and we know what it's like here. They're 5-5. It's going to feel like the end of the world, but the back end shapes up. If they're if they need to get to 9 or a 10, it's doable.
Absolutely.
It's doable.
I think if you're 5-5 after that, like you said, murderer's row of a stretch, I think you feel pretty good about your chances.
I just feel like it's very important to. I think you have to split with the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably need to split with the Saints, and you absolutely must win both games against the Panthers.
Absolutely.
To keep that division math intact, because you're going to be playing a lot. The crossover games are going to be similar for those teams as well, except for the first place games that the Bucs got slotted into. So every team, I guess my point is, the Falcons are going to have a murderer's row. So are the Saints. But you've got to take care of business when you play them face-to-face, those NFC South games, to win that division.
And that brings us to prediction time. Okay, let's just start with week 1. Commanders, we're feeling a dub?
I feel like it's a win.
Yeah. Okay. So starting off the season at 1-0, I happen to also agree. Not that my opinion is valued as much as our Bucs insiders, but yeah, we all agree that the Bucs are going to take care of business at home on Sunday at Raymond James Stadium against the Washington Commanders. But now prediction time for what you think. And we're just on the record now, you guys. We might have to, we might look at this later on in the season and see how we were feeling. We haven't mentioned Eileen, by the way, probably traversing somewhere through Europe at the moment.
On a beach in Europe, looking at the schedule, picking her, saying what she's
making
doing right
her
now.
predictions.
Yeah, exactly.
So Eileen is off the hook for her preseason prediction. We might have to text her and get it on the record or something like that. But guys, here's how we're gonna do this. Give me the Bucs record and whether or not it's enough to win the division. Who wants to go first? Kenny, why don't we, start with you.
Okay.
Kenny, give me win-loss, and
you have the honors.
Is it a division title?
I'll go 10-7.
10-7.
I think they get double-digit wins.
Okay.
And I do think it's enough to win the division.
All right. How about it? Some optimism?
I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'm an optimist. I like the Liam Cohen offense. Like we said, I think Baker Mayfield takes another, maybe not a giant leap forward, but I think a nice significant step forward in his development. And I think the ground game will be much improved, which should certainly help.
Wow, I like it.
I
love it.
As well, Dan, record and division.
I did it while Kenny was talking. I did a real quick count. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. So last year I predicted 8 wins. They won 9. I'm predicting 9 wins this year. 9 and 8.
So
and
a repeat
back to back.
Yep.
9 and 8. I think here's the great part. I'm not buying the Falcon thing.
No, I mean I get it, but yeah,
I think that 9 and 8 wins the NFC South.
Yeah,
wins the NFC South. And if we're wrong, it's because Atlanta just won 12. I mean, or the Panthers come out and win 6 or 7 and steal wins from the Bucs and the Saints and those teams. That's why 9 and 8 I think wins the division.
It has been interesting to see so many national pundits just hop on the Falcon hype train when in reality
I love Raheem Morris, by the way.
I do as well. Yeah,
love him. I love Raheem. And if they just weren't in the NFC South, I would be rooting loudly for him. But I don't know. I don't know. I know Kirk Cousins beat the Bucs years ago with Washington, but last year opening day, the Bucs were the dominant team in Minnesota. So I don't know.
I can
split. I think they split that series.
Yeah, I get why some pundits might be believers. I think a lot of them believe it's similar to the Bucs situation in 2020 when Tom Brady comes. They're like, oh, they're just a quarterback away.
Right.
Yeah, because the Falcons do have some really intriguing skill position players, whether you're talking about Drake London, Bijan Robinson, all those dudes, Kyle Pitts. And then obviously they upgraded the defense too with Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons. But that was Tom Brady. This is Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. We have no idea what he's going to look like or how he's going to perform. And even if he does perform at the level he had the past couple of years, it's not, an elite level. It was always a pretty good to above average quarterback.
Yep.
and can't sleep on the Saints. You just always know that the Saints are going to, field a team that is competitive. How competitive is always the question, but they were right there with the Bucs at 9-8 last season. We'll see exactly how Derek Carr operates in in this Saints offense, too.
Remember this though, JB. Bucs finished 9-8 last year, and they blew some games. So I know it's coulda, woulda, that type of deal. When you look back, it's always hindsight. But the games we talked about earlier, where the defense could not hold leads, you're looking at maybe 11 wins last year if they could have held those leads. So I mean, this is not a team that's getting ready to go backwards. I think it's a team that's moving forward still.
You know how the Bucs are probably feeling about this season? Is there a word that comes to mind?
I have an idea.
Yeah. No. I have an idea too. I think they're excited. We're excited, of course, to be back with weekly episodes of Bucs Bonus here in the Stream Center. Of course, weekly to recap everything that's happening with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers here with the official station of your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, WFLA News Channel 8. You'll be seeing a little bit of me. Maybe, do we catch Eileen at some point on this show?
We'll get her. Don't worry.
We'll get her. All the Eileen fans, believe
we'll find her.
She's coming back. You won't have to hear from me all that much.
She's going to be tan. I'm warning you.
Yeah, there you go.
She's going to be pretty tan.
The WFLA sports team, of course, Dan Lucas, Kenny Morales, and Eileen Natchik, of course, with the Bucs Bonus podcast here on WFLA.com. Catch their reporting. Give them a follow on social media for all things Buccaneers over the course of the season and all of your Buccaneers headlines on WFLA.com. One quick look here at the entire team. Yeah, Kenny.
There they are.
It's good to see you, man. Looking good there.
Thank you.
The headshot, Buckified Bert there as well.
I like Eileen in the front.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, look at that.
I like
front and center.
Balancing it out with the fellas on the left and to her right.
There you go.
Really appreciate you joining us for this edition of Bucs Bonus. We'll see you next time here from your official Bucs station, News Channel 8. Farewell, folks.